Hello, everyone. Nope, it's not the eye. It's ecology. We are back with the last set of screencasts for the year. I'm going to try to bring these screencasts in at 3 and no longer than 10 minutes each. But if I don't shut up, I won't. All right. So topic 10, part 2 is on ecology. All right. So what are some things that I want to tell you to start it off 30 seconds or so? The Earth is home to literally trillions of organisms, and none of these organisms can survive alone. So all organisms, including humans, have to interact with both the living and the non-living things surrounding them. And that's what ecology is, the study how organisms, meaning a particular organism, interacts with the living and a non-living. On to slide 2. All right, an ecosystem or an ecological system is a term used to describe any portion of the environment that the living and non-living things live in or surrounds that organism. All right, you go to the next panel, you can see that there. All right, so ecosystems focus on two aspects: living and non-living factors. So living factors include everything that's alive, plus things along the lines like disease, parasitism, predation, things that have to do with living organisms. The abiotic, anything that living things interact with that they need in order to stay alive. So for instance, I'm going to need to make a list here of abiotic factors, such as the pH of soil type, rocks in the soil for the minerals, temperature, temperature range an organism lives in, sun availability if you are a plant, even if you're not a plant, availability of water as well. So abiotic factors, I'm trying to think of more. We can see here, availability of oxygen and carbon dioxide for all of us, and of course pollution. All of these are abiotic factors that we interact with in order to, as far as our ecosystems. All right, so what can act as then an ecosystem? A pond, a field of corn, a fish tank. You can make your own ecosystem. It's actually called a mesochasm, decaying log. So if we go to the hierarchy or the classification of an ecosystem, you see below, all right, the 7 definitions there. So an individual or a species is a group of one kind of organism that share a characteristic in mate. We did that in the evolution. All right, so species inhabit their own habitat, their own specific environment. Okay, so species living in the same area make up a population. Ants in a single ant hill. All the different populations of organisms living together make a community. So community, population, habitat, species are restricted to anything that's living only. An ecosystem, as you can see there, L and NL, living and non-living. All right, we bring it up further. The biome, okay, collection of environments with similar qualities, and of course the Earth, basically all the Earth's ecosystems, the biosphere, the Earth itself, the biosphere. All right, so the biologically inhabited portions of the Earth that you can see there with, all right, so for instance, some ecosystems, you see the ecosystem, the tundra, all right, the Arctic ecosystem, maybe the tropical rainforest here, definitely a desert ecosystem here. Important to know that in any ecosystem, the growth and survival of organisms depends on the physical conditions. And so we talk about a limiting factor. If you have unlimited resources, then living things could really go on and produce populations that will go on and on, that really are infinite. But we know that's not the case. So within any ecosystem, there are limited resources: oxygen, CO2, water, nutrients, sunlight, even space. And those environmental conditions and living conditions are called a limiting factor. All right, so that limit growth. And the carrying capacity of that is the number of organisms of any single species that an ecosystem can support. So if you go to the graph that's used by the Regents a lot, you see the exponential graph here, infinite growth, and then it goes out and you see the carrying capacity right there. So you go back and you take a look and you want to know number of organisms an area can support, supported by that graph. It's also, again, has a lot to do with the competition for those resources, the struggle for those resources, predator prey. So we'll speak about that going up and going forward. All right, the Venus flytraps there. All right, a couple of questions here that you might get. And all of these that I encourage you to stop on are regions questions to take a quick look at. So statewide. All right, ecosystems and overall carrier capacity. Another question there. All right, try to answer those. And if you have questions on those, get back to me. All right, there you see the level of organization, right up from cell, right up to organism, which is here. So cell, tissue, organ system, organism, species, population, community, ecosystem, biome, biosphere. Don't neglect to remember that when we say organism here, okay, we're talking about a species. That's an individual organism. All right. And out. All right. So go on through. There you go. All right. So how does a population interact? So there is a wide diversity or interaction between species in most ecosystems. Okay. So most of the interactions occur as organisms obtain their food. That you want to keep in, and that is population interaction. So you notice the 4 ways that you should know: competition, what a niche is, what predation is, and what symbiosis is. All right, competition, easily talked about, all right, is the struggle for resources among organisms within any species. Okay, there's competition that keeps the size of the population in check, going back to the carrying capacity. Keeps the size of the population in check, as you can see up on top there. So it goes into that as well. So in established ecosystems, populations tend to increase or decrease depending on the resources available at the time. So the variation of population trends follow a predictable cycle. Many populations, for example, vary within the seasons. Over time, even though it's varying within the seasons, it still remains a stable. All right. So competition can be within the same species, intra or interspecific between different species. All right. Population. All right. The role there. So an ecological niche, that's the role a specific species plays in an ecosystem. All right. So only one species at a time can occupy a particular niche. If 2 species attempt to fill it, competition is going to result. And usually then one species more suited wins or to the niche, which forces the other to move or face, elimination. So eventually only one species occupies a niche. So you read the notes that we have there. I'll go on. So sometimes it appears that different populations occupy the same niche. So for example, as you see here, the tree, different population, if you take the tree as one whole, then yes, you're right, different birds are occupying the same tree. But within the same tree, since it's so large, you have a population, the last 3 or 4 meters here, this 3 meters here, and the lower portion of the tree. So, for example, in the woods, deer and moose often live within the same area and seem to eat the same plants. But if you look closer, deer and moose have different food preferences and only compete when food is very scarce and limited. So similarly, the same thing as you see in birds, insects as well. All right, so a niche. All right, predation, super easy to understand what it is. And then this is a biotic factor. All right, the relationship, predators kill and eat other organisms. Prey, which is the organism that is killed. Predator kills and eats their prey, limits growth in the population. Too many prey animals are killed, then the predators begin to starve. So you see the diagram below here. Okay, you see the hare, which is the prey, and the lynx, which is the predator. Predators eat the prey big amount here. Predators, notice they peak down here. and then they start to go down. So if too many prey animals are killed, predators begin to starve and their population. So with fewer predators, the size of the prey begin to recover, as you can see in this graph as well. Owl and mice, mice and owl. All right, it is time and generations. Super easy. Predator-prey relationships. Both organisms can benefit. Predator gets the food, prey limits the population, but the population overall remains healthy. This is over time, so cyclical over time. Excuse me, I don't want to stop the screencast yet. So we have one more. All right, one more population interaction, and that would be your symbiotic relationship. Two organisms that live close together. So if you're mutualistic, both organisms benefit, and that would be your, again, your bee and the pollen there. The bee uses the pollen there, and of course, pollinates the air. Both organisms benefit. You get more plants there. One organism benefit, the other organisms are not, right? These little barnacles here can live there, and it doesn't hurt the whale. And of course, the parasite, the blood-sucking whatever it is that's going to suck your blood and maybe give you a disease, all right, which is a parasitic disease. The other is harm, usually you, not always, animals, all right, symbiotic relationship. All right, so that's going to end this first screencast. We will continue